Hello and welcome back to the SkullKing Fantasy Football Podcast, presented to you by Vox DFS Firelines, found at voxdfs.com. My name is Justin. You can follow me on Twitter at SkullKingJustin.
My name is Ryan. You can follow me at SkullKingFB.
Welcome to our podcast show. One of the things we do want to get to at the top of the show is to let you know of the contest we have going on through the outlets that we have. If you retweet when our show gets posted on Twitter, that enters you into the drawing for winning the free year-long subscription to our newsletter and to all of our content online. It's just $10. You can also please leave a comment on YouTube for any sort of feedback. We're open and welcome to any feedback that is constructive, make us better, tell us what you do like, what you don't like. But once again, you can enter into the contest by leaving a comment on YouTube, liking and subscribing, clicking a like or share through Facebook, and as well doing it through Twitter. And so that's the competition that we have. And right now we're going to pay the bills, as the joke goes. Ryan's going to tell you a little bit more about our sponsor for the show today in Vox DFS Firelines.
All right. Thank you, Justin. Vox DFS Firelines is a premier daily fantasy lineup consultant service. Doesn't matter if you play NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, NASCAR, PGA, any daily game that you want. They play on DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo, any DFS platform that you are involved with. These guys have the lineup consultants that you need in order to be successful with your DFS lineups. They provide cash lineups, tournament lineups for you to kind of tinker with and edit. They have an online chat that you can get a hold of them, and not only talk with the experts but also with other clients that they've got in there. It's just this massive chat room for you to be able to just sit and talk DFS, figure out how you want to go with your lineups. They've got the guys who've done the research, and really this group at Vox DFS, they are seriously, they describe themselves as a big family. They treat each other like that, in a good family, in a good way.
I was about to say, please clarify that.
And really they've really been great to us here at SkullKing. They're great people. They're the guy who started the website, Brad Holda. He's actually used to be a writer for us here at SkullKing, and then started his own company there over with Vox, and he's actually going to be providing, as part of our premier $10 membership for the season, providing 17 cash lineups, which is kind of the 50-50 lineups that you can play on DraftKings and FanDuel. He'll be providing one every week with some analysis of why he's picking those players for the week, so that you can kind of get used to their services, who they are, what they do, and really it's just a phenomenal deal. And not only that, if you get our SkullKing premium membership on SkullKingFootball.com, you can actually get 72 hours for free of consulting with them in their big chat room. They also do some private consulting one-on-one. If you're wanting a little more specific help, they've got guys who specialize in specific sports. They've got guys that, honestly, I've seen some of their lineups and some of their games for like PGA and NASCAR. These guys are killing it. So really, I mean, these guys they're phenomenal at what they do. They're great to work with. Absolutely a whole lot of fun. So yeah, go ahead and hop on SkullKingFootball.com, sign up for that premier membership. Again, you get 30 days for free on SkullKingFootball.com. So that'll give you 1 or 2 weeks into the season, so that not only are you getting our weekly projections and lineups or our rankings, but you're also going to get a couple of lineups from Brad for DFS, for playing a little bit of that. So really, it's a phenomenal deal. So yeah, go sign up on SkullKingFootball.com, and don't forget to check out VoxDFS.com.
Okay, and just as a quick review of our last show, we covered our sleepers for the for our first official show. We covered sleepers for this season. Just as a quick recap, I had Tyrod Taylor, Antonio Gates, Marvin Jones, and Darren Sproles. Ryan, you had, I believe, Matthew Stafford, Antonio Gates, as well as tight end.
Yeah.
Boyd at receiver, and your running back was Bilal Powell. Bilal Powell. I can't enunciate correctly. And so this episode, we're going to be covering the busts, the anti of what we did on the last show. This is the other side. I've got some jokes that are going to go along with mine. And so if we want to get started right now, we're going to start, once again, like we did with the last show, we're going to start with the quarterback. I want to get started first because these were a lot of my jokes are coming in. My bust this year at quarterback is Big Ben, a.k.a. Ben Roethlisberger. He was seen in practice on a scooter with ice bags all over his knees. He's not really participating. He's a veteran, so I'm not concerned with his ability to pick up the offense. It's not uncommon for veterans to sit out of practice. It's the scooter and the
preseason games.
Yeah, it's the scooter and the ice bags when he's been sitting on a scooter with ice bags. So what is he doing to himself if he's not suiting up that requires him to be on a scooter with ice bags? We kind of joked around before the show that we just get kind of this Byron Leftwich vibe of his linemen are going to have to literally carry him down the field later in the season. He's got all of the talent in the world around him. He's got a new tight end this year. He has the
and don't forget the tight end is suffering from massive headaches. They're looking. He may even have to retire early.
I've heard conflicting reports on that. There was a lot of buzz. There was a lot of buzz on that right away, and it's cooled off. So I'm not sure. I think there was a lot of panic that set in right off the bat. Roethlisberger has all the tools. He's got the number one receiver. He has, to me, undoubtedly the number one running back. But he's out for the first 4 games, pending his suspension appeal, which I think will be upheld just with a history of Roger Goodell and appeals. I think missing your drug test after failing one tells me you were guilty. So I don't see any – once again, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not seeing anything that would overturn that. But I just don't think – if Roethlisberger's already on a scooter, what does that say about his chances of making it all the way through the season? He's already been banged up on and off the field in his career. He's had a couple of motorcycle accidents. He's had a couple of questionable decisions in the offseason, and he has been beat up.
Yeah, last year alone, he only played 12 games. So
yeah, and the backups did serviceable. I mean, the game that sticks out in my mind is that game that sticks out in everybody's head in the Steelers-Bengals game.
Yeah,
where Landry was a backup, and still Brown went off and got tons of catches. That's just his talent.
Yeah.
I don't think Roethlisberger elevates or takes away from Brown. He's just that kind of transcendent talent. I know that if he's not there, Brown will take a minor hit.
Yeah.
But I just don't see Roethlisberger holding up for the entire year, and that's why I have him as my biggest bust. He's on an incredible offense. There's going to be people who take him because of all those tools and the touchdown percentages that he'll have. I just don't see him making it through the entire season healthy.
Well, and here's a stat that I've looked at that has been I've heard it on multiple other podcasts. So I mean, credit where credit's due. It's not something that I've suddenly found, but if you look at his TD totals for over his career. He has only twice thrown over 32 touchdowns.
Yeah.
His next highest total after that is 28 in 2013. And then he's got a couple of he's got 2 of 26, 2 of 21, and then a whole bunch others under 20.
Yeah.
And part of that is because early in his career, they were a run heavy defense or a run heavy offense. They had Jerome Bettis. They kind of Ben Roethlisberger. They were doing with Ben what the Seahawks did with the first few years of Russell Wilson's career, bringing him on slowly. Not a whole lot of attempts. I mean, you look at his first couple of years, he's throwing 295, 268, and then he gets the 469 attempts in his first 3 years. And then if you look at the last 3 years, in 12 games, he threw the ball 469 yards. And then in 2014, he threw it over 600 times. So he's been throwing the ball a lot over the last few years. He's not getting those touchdown numbers, partially because the last few years they've had Le'Veon Bell running the ball. So my main thing with Ben Roethlisberger is, the passing touchdowns aren't quite there, but also because of his age and how much punishment he has taken over his career. I don't see him making it through the whole season, which partially makes me hesitant a little bit on Brown as the first overall pick. But again, he's shown that he can do it with someone else throwing him the ball.
So who do you have as your bust quarterback this year?
Well, my bust quarterback last year, or for this year, was last year's breakout star in Blake Bortles. And if you look at the stats, he had a pretty good year. He threw the ball over 600 times. Again, that was because the run game was non-existent.
Their defense was non-existent.
And the main reason was, again, their defense wasn't there. They were behind in so many games by so far. All they could do was throw the ball up to Allen Hurns and Allen Robinson down the field, and because of that, they scored 14 and 10 touchdowns between the two. And so I see a little bit of touchdown regression between, from the two of them, maybe down to 10 and 8 for the two, 10 and 6. So that's going to bring down the TD total. They've also another factor to consider is they brought in Chris Ivory specifically to help with the run game. He is a north-south runner that really he's not Marshawn Lynch, but he is that he plays that style of game. Where he looks for contact. He does get injured a bit. Last year he had to sit a few games, but he's a guy to help take the load off of TJ Yeldon. And so because of the improved running game that I already see them improving a little bit in the running game, and let's be honest, they've added some decent players on the defense. They drafted really well defensively. They've got their number 1 pick from last year. It was Dante Fowler. He's finally back after tearing his ACL in the beginning of camp, his rookie season. So he's had a chance to actually recover all season, kind of like a Jordy Nelson, Kelvin Benjamin, unlike the guys who tore him halfway through the season last year who are coming back. So with the increase, with the better defense, and the increased run, the better run game, I see, not necessarily because he can't do it. I see the game script playing a little bit different. Again, how I put it is all of our projections and guesses and busts and sleepers are our best guess of what we look at, what we see with the stats. So again, I'm okay to be wrong and see Blake Bortles just absolutely go off. But I have the whole Lost in Space danger Will Robinson when it comes to drafting
danger.
When it comes to drafting Blake Bortles. I want to say look at Fantasy Pros.
Danger Allen Robinson, danger.
he's going as the eighth quarterback off the board, which that's a little steep for me.
A lot of drafts I've been in, he's been number 5 or 6.
Yeah, he's going number 5 or 6.
This is insane.
Yeah, so I'm willing to wait on that, and like I said in my sleepers, go with last episode, go with Matthew Stafford, who's going as the number 18 quarterback off the board.
Yeah.
And who's largely going undrafted. So yeah, for me it's Blake Bortles. I see a negative regression there, not necessarily because of the talent, but because of I think some of the numbers were unsustainable last year, as well as if you look at, he also, on top of those 35 touchdowns, threw, let's see, where is it? 18 interceptions.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't see that ratio really getting fixed. So,
Yeah. It's one of those things where he had a great year last year. That does not mean
he had a great fantasy year last year.
Yes. That does not mean he's going to have an even better fantasy year just because it's the next year.
Yeah.
One of the things I completely agree with you on the running game being a whole lot better. I mean, last year when Denard Robinson becomes fantasy football relevant as a running back,
well, and technically
that's kind of That's kind of nerve-wracking to me. And so Chris Ivory coming back, Denard Robinson drops even further down the depth chart.
Well, yeah, and the running backs, they've it's been a mess. I mean, they even had
carousel of bodies.
They had Stormy Johnson running for them one game. So I mean,
who?
Yeah, exactly.
So
so yeah, I mean, TJ Yeldon is going to be more the passing game back, and so they'll take a little bit of load off of him. They're not going. I don't think, they're saying that Chris Ivory could be a 3-down back. I don't see him holding up under that load. So I think they'll spread out a little bit.
Jets. I mean, he kind of was, but he kind of wasn't. I don't see him being that at Jacksonville to which he wasn't at the Jets.
Correct.
Which traditionally been more of a run heavy offense.
So I'm not as high on Blake Bortles as many are, just because I looking at the stats, I see a little bit of smoke and mirrors. So
yeah. Give me who you believe is your running back bust this year.
My running back bust, and I want to start this off by saying part of my running back hesitancy comes from the fact that I am a very strong believer. Again, I play a lot of PPR leagues, so I'm a very strong believer in the 0 running back strategy. I avoid the risk of the carousel of running backs that comes through. And running back injuries, especially in the higher end players. I'd rather, because you can find the value later in running backs. And so my running back I think he's going usually in about this mid-second, no later than like the early third round, is LaShawn McCoy. And I may get a whole lot of flack from this, because well, he's great in PPR. Well, yeah, when he can stay on the field. Let's be honest. This guy let's look at his attempts. He's got over 1,600 attempts already, just running attempts over his career. He's got 332 receptions. So he is pushing already 2,000 touches in his career, which, that right there is enough to kind of say, okay, he's getting up there. He's 28 years old. He had some, again, the soft tissue injuries, those are the ones that tend to linger. And he missed 4 games last year, and he missed, a couple crucial games last year, and missing, I want to say week 16 and week 17, which, that's championship week. Those 2 weeks are championship weeks in fantasy football. So, maybe I'm just a little jaded by that, but, he was productive when he was in the game, and he's getting a lot of touches. Again, the Buffalo Bills, Rex Ryan is a pound 'em type of team. But I don't see him holding up under that kind of a load again this year. Everyone's saying that he's looking pretty good so far, but I don't see him holding up under that kind of a load. And like you were saying with having Tyrod Taylor as your sleeper, looking at the defense when they when Rex hires his brother to run the defense, that I'm not liking that pickup. That could, and they play in the
subtraction by addition.
The AFC East, which I can see the Jets kind of scoring on them a bit. Once Tom Brady comes back after his 4-game suspension, the Patriots are a powerful offense, whether you want to admit it or not. They're a powerful offense and can get the job done.
And Tom Brady's going to come back angry. And ready to score at will.
And I took advantage of that last year, drafting him in one of my leagues, and so I don't see I see, possibly the game flow not going in his favor. He may get more passes. He may get more receptions, which will help him out in PPR. The amount of touches, he's already shown the soft tissue injuries, having problems with the hamstrings and that sort of thing. I'm willing to be wrong. I am willing to let someone else take that risk. I'm not going to touch him. So
one of the things that I think has falsely raised his stock, if I worded that correctly, is the Carlos Williams situation. Everyone knows he's the only option. So they're not afraid of a number 2 coming in and sniping touchdowns at the end. They're not afraid of somebody else coming in and finishing off a drive for him. So there's this sense that he's the guy, and he's not going to get what I like to call Kyrie Robinson on the goal line.
No, I think
steal touchdowns.
But if you remember, they do have Mike Gillislee, who performed pretty well in the preseason game. Looked pretty good running the ball. He's their number 2 right now, and they've got another. I want to say a rookie that they just drafted he got suspended or something as well, or he's dealing with some legal issues. So right now it's LaShawn McCoy and Mike Gillislee.
Definitely sounds like a Ryan team.
Didn't they sign Reggie Bush as well?
They did.
Yeah,
and that's one of those things I will be keen to watch.
I think he's going to be more of a return type of guy.
Yeah.
I don't see him being really that involved in the offense. So I'm willing to be wrong, but I will stay away from LaShawn McCoy and let someone else take that risk.
For me, the one that I have kind of pains me, but kind of doesn't. Being a Seattle fan, picking Thomas Rawls as my kind of bust this season may come as a shock to most people, because I know tons of people who are high on him and high on him and high on him, and I believe that's valid. But I believe that Christine Michael will be a viable option.
That's so weird to say.
As weird as that is to say, hearing that come out of my mouth is just weird. But if you look at some of the numbers of how Christine Michael performed, the numbers are there. Sample size is incredibly small, but I also think that the sample size for Thomas Rawls is incredibly small. One season, he had 7 games, I believe, where he was the guy, but he's also coming off an ankle injury. All indications are that he'll come back from that pretty well. But I think
he's already off the PUP list and is already practicing full with the team. So
yeah, but I just think that there's going to be a running back by committee. This notion that Thomas Rawls is going to come in and be Marshawn Lynch 2.0, I believe, is completely unfounded. I would love to see it happen as a Seahawks fan. But when you look at Christine Michael's average yards last year just for the Seahawks, granted, sample size is only 3 games, 39 attempts, 192 yards. That's 4.9 yards per carry. No touchdowns, obviously, but Thomas Rawls, 5.6. So, granted, Thomas Rawls had a much larger
sample. All running backs who had over 100 rushes last year, he led the league in yards per carry.
Yeah, it's that I don't think will be the same. I think one of the things that Seattle's going to focus on as well this year is the passing game a little bit more. I think Russell Wilson is going to have an explosive year. They signed Doug Baldwin to a higher contract. I'm not sure on Jimmy Graham. I think that's just too hard of a injury to come back from. But to stay on point, I just see the running back situation being a running back by committee. I don't see Thomas Rawls being the 1, 2, 3 down guy. I think they want to make sure that Thomas Rawls is the running back of the future, sure. Don't get me wrong. But I think they want to be careful with that ankle. I think they want to get more people involved because in year one, most running backs don't necessarily get damaged in year one, but if you start to have this cycle of injuries, you can wear down a running back way too early. So I think Thomas Rawls is going to fall victim only because, and I really have him as a bust only because his draft stock is so high. It's
right now he's on in standard leagues. He is the number 31 overall, so it's about halfway through the third round in standard in a 12-team league. He's the 13th running back taken off the board.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that. And his draft stock has slipped in the last couple of weeks just because people are a little bit more nervous with getting close to the regular season and him just now coming off the PUP list.
And seeing how well Christian Michael played in the preseason game.
It's just one of those things. It's one of the things I'm going to watch. I may change that after draft. Sorry. At the beginning of the season, it may be one of those things where I can admit I was wrong. But I think for me, I am the very, very cautious drafter, especially when it comes to running backs, because I last year got decimated at running back. Now, granted, we were in the league that I'm talking about was a smaller league. It was an 8-man league, so it was just unfair, the amount of talent. I had Ingram go down. I had
you drafted Le'Veon Bell.
I had Le'Veon Bell go down.
He went down.
Yeah, it's just like everybody I had went down, and I still won. Yay!
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Once again, that was due to our draft strategy kit, which was very, very well done last year, I must say. But it was one of those things that I thrived more with the receivers that I took and being able to stream running backs later. Because I'm just nervous of the pounding that a running back takes unless you can get a guy later in the draft like a Sproles who's not going to get that running pounding yards.
Well, he's going to get Sproles only going to really be working in a PPR.
Yeah, and I'm more of a PPR guy personally. That's the leagues I like to play in. So once again, it hurts to say that about Thomas Rawls. That's one of those things. I seriously hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. But I don't see there being a definitive role for Thomas as the only 1, 2, 3 guy. I think they're going to mix in things and just see what happens and go from there. So
you want me to tell you why you're wrong?
Sure, but let me say one last thing about Christian Michael. The reports are the wake-up call that he had by being moved around so much I think has given him a little bit of a wake-up call, made him a little bit more humble, a little bit more hungry, which is why you're seeing a little bit more progress from him in the preseason. Once again, preseason, don't overanalyze it. Just look at the tape and judge for yourself on how good the players are. Go ahead.
So, yeah.
I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
Christian Michael has the physical abilities. It's really a matter of whether he can put it together in his head. He's been a hesitant runner previously in his career. Yes, now he may have figured it out. And a lot of I heard the report that Pete Carroll said after that game that Rawls and Michael will make a good 1-2 punch. I'm still not totally
Coach banter.
So I'm still not totally convinced that Alex Collins will be the better backup running back. I know he didn't perform all that well in that first preseason game. Again, it's a rookie who was drafted in the 5th round. Collins rookie drafted in the 5th round who wasn't who just his first NFL game action. I see Thomas Rawls as being the 1-2 guy, first and second down guy. I could see Christian Michael being being the third down guy right now, with CJ Procise still not being healthy. He's dealing with the soft tissue injuries, the hamstrings and the quads. So he hasn't been practicing. He may even, from what I last report I see, he may still be out another week. So I could see Christian Michael getting that third down option. Thomas Rawls is a downhill, again, that beast mode style that Pete Carroll likes. You're being cautious about the injury history. I understand. His break, though, well, I believe there was a little bit of ligament damage. Mainly it was just the fact that his leg was the ankle was broken. So
Someone broke his ankles.
So again, I can see him if he's already backing off the pup list, and practicing and making cuts, and he is completely past his physical. I can see Thomas Rawls taking that job back over.
Yeah.
It may start off slow, but I believe by the end of the season, that he will be back running the ball hard. Again, 5.6 yards per carry. While that may not be sustainable, he did that with a terrible, terrible offensive line.
Yeah, the jigsaw.
Yeah, and my second point, this will be my final point on this. You talk about the passing game for the Seahawks. They did not throw the ball as much as everyone thinks they did in the second half. They averaged, I want to say it was right around 27 to 28 passes per game last season, the first half. After Jimmy Graham went down and they were supposedly throwing the ball all over the place, all they really did was, instead of going 5 to 7 step drops, they were doing timing routes at 3-step drops. Yep. And so they only actually threw the ball 1.5 more times per game over the second half of the season. They were just more efficient with it.
Yes.
Which again opened up more running space for Thomas Rawls as he was going. So honestly, for me, I'm fine for Thomas Rawls. If I'm in a standard league, I will take Thomas Rawls with a 3rd round pick. Yeah. I'm willing to
3rd round, yes. 2nd round.
Now in a PPR, I'm a little more running back averse, but in a
more
standard league, depending on where I'm picking in a standard league, I'm willing to take that risk on Thomas Rawls, especially if everyone's kind of a little hesitant on him. If I can get him in the 4th round, beginning of the 4th round, I'm all about driving that Rolls Royce. So
Rolls Royce. Too many. Well, I guess I shouldn't say too many nicknames, because that's one thing that's missing in sports right now. The glory days of basketball nicknames, but I digress. We'll move on to wide receivers, and I feel like I may have a controversial one here. Once again, not a lot of people agree with me on the Thomas Rawls thing. This next one, I don't care if people agree with me or not. But
you have a personal vendetta against him.
Well, maybe I'm just bitter because he went down in week 1 last year. And I was waiting for, I wasn't watching the game. I was down by 0.5 point in the 2nd quarter. And I'm like, I got to win. I'm like, he didn't get a single point. Later, I found out he got injured. Obviously, we're talking about Dez Bryant. The reason why I'm just not sold, and I think he's a bust this year, is not necessarily due to the injury. It's due to name me another offensive weapon, a legitimate offensive weapon,
Ezekiel Elliott,
outside of Ezekiel Elliott and Dez Bryant. Name me one. If you're going to go Terrence Williams,
Terrence Williams, no.
If you're going to go Jason Witten, too old. The man has surgically repaired knees and ankles and should be out there in a walker and knee braces. He's like the epitome of Iron Man in football. You got to look up to him for his ability to do that.
He's still effective for PPR scoring.
Yeah.
Again, yeah. I mean, the real problem with Dez Bryant isn't Dez Bryant. The guy is extremely talented.
Once again, it's between the ears.
Yeah. No,
he's going to get in his own way. He is.
No, his main issue is the quarterback. Can Tony Romo stay healthy?
I don't think so. I've never. I don't want to say I've never been a Tony Romo fan. It's like every single moment that I can remember of him needing to come through in the clutch. He throws an interception.
But that's
he fumbles a field goal snap or something.
But again,
Phil Mickelson of football.
What we need to do is we need to separate fantasy football from real football.
Yes,
because if yes, he's choked in the clutch. And everyone, I want to say it was in 2013 where he had that a big game where I think it was him and it was Dallas and Denver. I want to say it was in 2013 where Manning and Romo are going off. Both of them throwing 5-6 touchdowns. It's like 49 to 51. And everyone goes off on Tony Romo because he threw an interception to end the game. Oh, he choked. He threw for 4, and I want to say 5 touchdowns in that game. So He had a great game, and yes, in the clutch, yes, he screwed up. But in terms of his actual fantasy relevance, if he can stay healthy, he finishes in the top 10. My problem is his rookie year was what, 2003. He's 36 years old. I mean, he's 3 years older than me, and I'm considered over the hill in sports. At 33, almost 34. So my problem is can Tony Romo stay healthy? Can they keep him upright? They have the best. Run blocking line in the league, but it doesn't take or just line in general. But it doesn't take too many hits on Tony Romo for him to be in a back brace again and wearing flak jackets as he's playing. So Dez Bryant, I can see the talent there. The guy is an athletic freak and can make the plays.
Did make that catch, by the way. That was still a catch. I will contend that for the rest of my life. That is a catch.
It was a catch. The catch rules is an abomination. So yeah, Tony Romo's my issue with and if everyone says, "Well, Dak Prescott, he was absolutely awesome in that first preseason game," so was Ryan Leaf in his first preseason game, and look, so I'm not. Again, we can't put too much stock in that first preseason game. I can see where Dez Bryant can cause some people some issues and want to avoid him.
Another thing I want to point out is everyone is incredibly high on Ezekiel Elliott. He's still unproven. Yes, Dallas does have a very good offensive line.
They have the top offensive line.
But Tony Romo still gets hurt.
Yeah.
I don't know how productive the Dallas offense will be when you only have to really guard 2 guys. You can stack the box and then have your safety shade over against Dez Bryant. I just don't know how productive they'll be. I mean, last year you could stream the Dallas Cowboys running back. It didn't matter who it was. They were going to get about 100 yards and a touchdown, including Christian Michael. But it was one of those things I just don't know about Ezekiel Elliott. There were some questionable off-field stuff that's been cleared up.
Yeah.
I'm seems to be a fine guy. It's one of those things. This may be just my bias. I'm always nervous. First-year running backs in the first round. Yeah. It's too risky for me, but I am the grandma of risk. I don't like taking a risk in my first round pick at all. So
getting back to Dez Bryant.
Yeah.
If I can see Ezekiel Elliott being productive and teams having to stack the box against him.
Yeah.
I don't see, but Terrence Williams can be effective. If Dez Bryant has the ability to get open and Romo to throw to him, I think Romo's going to be too injury prone to really make that a solid choice.
Another aspect is the Dallas defense did not improve at all, and they have a slew of guys suspended, so they're going to be behind. Tony Romo's going to have to throw. He's going to throw extra pressure on his arm, and that's
more dropbacks for him to get hit.
It's too risky. The Dallas offense is kind of a mess. I would stay away from Dez Bryant personally just because of all that. I think where he's at, there's other value there that's a little bit safer.
Well, real quick, let's look. The guy's going around Dez Bryant. I mean, he's going the number 11 overall, the 5th wide receiver.
Yeah,
I'm willing to go with DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, Allen Robinson, and even Brandon Marshall over Dez Bryant.
I would take Brandon Marshall in a heartbeat. Especially since he bet his car. I think he's going to want to keep that car, and so I also think he's confident enough to think that he will do better than he did last year if he's willing to put up his car. But I think Tony Romo's going to have another down year. But that may be, once again, just my personal bias. It's one of those things. I made a pick. That's my pick. I'm going to stick to it. All right. Tell me who you have as your bust.
Okay, as my bust, I got to be honest, it kind of hurts me to say because he really helped carry me to a championship 2 years ago in my
Oh, don't know.
PPR league. But Alshon Jeffrey, and yeah, so here's the deal with Alshon. He played 9 games last year. He was injured a bunch last year. In 2014 he dealt with a couple of injury issues, but they weren't enough that he missed games. He was still playing through them. Brandon Marshall's on the other side. Brandon Marshall had more injury problems than Alshon did. But Alshon, yes, he's going to want to get paid this year. Because the Chicago Bears didn't sign him, didn't give him a new contract. They don't, rumor has it they don't see him as being that number one top flight guy. Most of the rest of the NFL does, but the Bears don't, which gives me pause. Again, he dealt with, his injuries were soft tissue injuries, which again can linger. Can he stay healthy? That and if you look at the first preseason game, again, don't put too much stock in those first preseason games, but
Yeah.
Chicago's Bears offense looked horrible. I mean, they looked terrible. I don't like their running backs, especially Jeremy Langford. Don't get me started on Jeremy Langford. But yeah, Alshon Jeffrey, I see him having some issues. Maybe he goes off and is able to prove himself so that he can get that big contract next year. It's contract year. I think they actually franchise tagged him. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that's what they did. So, again, the injury history makes me nervous. I passed on AJ Green last year because the injuries he dealt with the year before. Was I wrong about AJ Green last year? Yes, that's fine. But again, you want to make, it's all best guess. And right now, seeing that Alshon Jeffrey missed 7 games last year was was inconsistent. Again, inconsistent even which games he actually even played in. He played week 1, took weeks 2, 3, 4, and 5. He was off. Then he goes off in weeks, 6 by week 7, goes off in week 8, week 9, gets injured in week 10 again. So, takes another week off and goes off, next 3 weeks, gets injured in week 15 and doesn't play week 16, week 17. So he's, I see him as too much of an injury risk. Again, if we're going back to like we did with Dez Bryant, the guys that are going around him right now, Alshon Jeffrey is number 10 wide receiver, 21 overall. I'm more than happy to take Mike Evans at 24, Amari Cooper at 25. Again, right above him, Brandon Marshall, who's going 18 overall, and even Keenan Allen, especially again, like I play mainly PPR leagues. Keenan Allen is going to be an awesome value. So
Yep. Really quick, moving on to the tight end. The tight end that I have is kind of my bust this year. He kind of came on hot and heavy towards the end of the season last year, especially in PPR. Gary Barnidge, a lot of that to me has to do with the RG3 factor. And RG3, when he's under pressure, his inability to make great decisions, I just don't see the offense being as good as it was last year. In the passing game, I think they're going to be a little bit more run heavy. With Duke Johnson, I think they're going to be a little bit more heavy on things.
Well, if in terms of the running game, because Hugh Jackson, is a huge running guy. I mean, you look at what he did with Jeremy Hill and Giovanni Bernard. I see, well, maybe not quite to the same success. Isaiah Crowell is that Jeremy Hill type downhill runner.
Yeah,
I think if Hugh Jackson can actually get to Crowell, he could be an awesome draft value. And he could be, because he's let's be honest, he's going to be the number 1 running back. He's that first and second down guy.
Yeah,
Duke Johnson is going to be the passing down guy.
Yeah,
who's going to be again that Giovanni Bernard role.
Yeah.
I see them focusing again more on the run game, to do what they can to protect RG3. Their defense, if their defense is, as inconsistent and cruddy as it was last year, they may find themselves down and have to pass the ball. And then you got, Corey Coleman and a bunch of no names. You've got, you do have Josh Gordon coming back.
I don't think the same Josh Gordon's coming back.
No, unfortunately, no. And, he's another one of those great pickups I had, in 2013 that really helped out my season. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't think he is going to be what he was. It's possible. Another thing that let's be honest, may hurt Gary Barnidge, who thought we'd say this, that Terrell Pryor has had a phenomenal camp. He looks the part of a wide receiver.
Yep.
Now, is he someone I'm going to draft? No. In a dynasty league draft, I may take a late round pick on him, and just hold him to see what happens.
Maybe.
If you're going full team dynasty, starting the draft right now, I would be willing to take a late round pick on Terrell Pryor just to see how it ends up. Redraft, I'm not going to draft him, but I will immediately after the draft put him on my watch list. And that's, going into a little bit of theory, go after you draft. If there are guys that you still have your eye on, go and hit them on your watch list. On Yahoo, you can star them in the player player lists. You can kind of star guys and have them so kind of to watch to see what they're doing. But yeah, I think there's enough going to be enough emphasis on the run game. That Crowell and Duke Johnson are going to be very highlighted. I see Gary Barnidge. Well, RG3 never really had a great connection with his tight ends. It was Kirk Cousins that was always thrown at the tight end, which, again, see Jordan Reed have the great year that he had last year. So I don't see Barnidge really having a great season. He could finish, technically as a tight end one is like that, number 12, number 13, but I don't see him as the, finishing as like, what did he finish like last year, number 7?
Yeah. And right now we have him as number 8 on our website. The other thing is he's coming off a sports hernia surgery that happened in June. All indications is he's on track to start at the beginning of the season. It's just one of those things. There's too much up in the air currently on the offense of Cleveland, where I would rather go somewhere else in tight end.
Because it's the Cleveland Browns, and there are enough people.
It's the Cleveland Browns.
It's the Cleveland Browns, which I'm going to be honest. They're the team that if I didn't have the Seahawks, if I had one team to root for, just because I feel sorry for them, it would be the Cleveland Browns.
I don't know if sorry is the word I would use. It's just one of those things like. You root for them because, like, I think it would be great for football. Yeah. It'd be crazy for the city of Cleveland, but they just won an NBA championship. Why should they get all greedy all of a sudden and like demand for the World Series and the Super Bowl? I mean, the Indians are going to drop, but do you have another individual that you want to talk about, kind of on the bust factor?
Well, in terms of tight ends, since we've covered all the other positions, looking at the tight ends, again, I see on our thing that Martellus Bennett's way up there. I don't think that's looking at the projections. This is pulled from a bunch of different other sites and weighted. I don't put a whole lot of weight in Martellus Bennett being that productive.
Yeah.
In terms of absolute bust, I'd have to put it on Jordan Reed because of his injury history with concussions. I could see Jordan Reed having a getting one more concussion, missing 3-4 games.
Yeah.
And he's had some leg issues as well. So I could see Jordan Reed just because of the injury history, but no, I mean I'm with you on Gary Barnidge. Yeah,
I'm not quite a believer yet on Kirkers. But the other one I would say, not that he's going to be a bust, but Cleveland the Panthers have a lot more weapons back this year, so I think you'll see Greg Olsen. He'll still be a force. He's just not going to put up the numbers that he put up last year. I still think he's going to be a top 5, but don't expect the same numbers you had last year.
Well, yeah. Well, it's because Kelvin Benjamin wasn't there. The king of garbage time wasn't there. And Devin Funchess is doing better in camp this year. He's actually starting to look like a professional receiver. So yeah, I can maybe a little bit of regression on Greg Olsen. He's still someone I would be willing to take. Him and Kobe Fleener and Delaney Walker are 3 guys that I would any of the 3 of them I would love to have.
Still draftable. Just don't expect the same numbers.
Yeah, if he drops a little bit, I'd be willing to take him. So
he's still been top 3 or 4 the last 3 or 4 seasons.
Yeah,
so you're gonna get solid production.
So
anything else you want to add before we wrap up here?
No, I think that's it. I think we're still kind of deciding what officially we're going to do for our next show. I think maybe doing a mock draft, or maybe I think actually no, our next show, let's do some draft strategy.
Yes. I have some personal draft strategy that I like and I adhere to, especially when it comes to setting trends, not blindly following them, and not getting freaked out when a streak happens on a specific position, whether it be wide receiver, running back, something like that. And so once again, thank you for joining us. Please, when this stuff hits Facebook and YouTube, please hit those comments.
And eventually iTunes.
These will eventually be on iTunes, but please hit that like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment, leave us some feedback. You get entered into the drawing to earn and to win the year-long fantasy football subscription through SkullKing Football, as well as the year-long consultation with us. Those who have a membership with us as well get up to 72 hours of the consultation with Vox DFS Fantasy Football. And so once again, this is the SkullKing Fantasy Football Podcast. Please join us for our next show, and have a good week.
All right. See you guys later.